Birds Fly Talk Nation, what is going on? It is your boy Kevin Taylor here. I'm back in the studio bringing you another episode here, and I am hanging out in the studio all alone. It's kind of unfortunate. We actually did this video already, believe it or not, and we had some crazy technical difficulties that have been trying to kick us in the butt. But look, we are pressing on. So unfortunately in the last video our boy Elzy was in it. He's not going to be able to be in this one, but he will be back. We got to pay him back for that. But look, we've got the mixer all figured out. The setup is all tight and right, and we are ready to roll here. We're ready to get into it. So this is our draft recap video. And although I'm in the studio all by my lonesome, I am not alone, because we're going to get our boy Trey from @Eagles_Republic on Instagram to jump back in this call. We heard so much about the last video, how much you guys liked hearing him on the feed, and you enjoyed him. Obviously here at Bird Fly Talk, we're just a big fan. He's family to the show, so we're going to get him back on the line here, and we're going to go over these picks. We're doing day 1 and 2, so rounds 1 through 3 here. We're going to jump right into it and get Trey on the line, and we are going to really get this thing kicked off and going. So without further ado, let's jump on. And if you don't know about Trey, he runs Eagles Republic on Instagram. That's @Eagles_Republic, one of the best Eagles pages on Instagram. Really, you would call him like kind of one of the godfathers of Eagles football on Instagram. Like, that's how legit this guy is. He just breathes excellence on Instagram. He pretty much just gets it done. I'm going to stop kissing his butt now, but we're going to get him on the line, get our tech guy to get him on the line, and we're going to get things rolling here. So, and shout out to the motherland, right? Sports R Philly. That's @Sports R Philly on Twitter, Instagram, and sportsrphilly.com. We're on there, man, and they just run Twitter pretty much. They're excellent. We're so happy to be partnered with them. So give them a shout out, a like, all that, follow, show them some Eagles love on all social media bases. And I think that's as far as that goes. So let's jump right into it and get Trey on the line. Trey, are you there?
Yes, how's it going?
What's going on, Trey? Everything is great over here. How's everything for you?
Pretty good. Ready to talk some Eagles.
Yes, as always, and we look forward to it. So look, we're not gonna mess around here. We want to get right into it. So look, pick 14. Birds Fly Talk crew was there. That video's coming out soon. Draft recap, kind of a variety show. We filmed everything that went on in the city and in the draft. We were there all day. So thanks to everybody who connected with us down there. That video is going to come out, but just to set up the scene before we jump into this pick, pretty much you saw some of the best, offensive talent in the draft go in that top 10 range there. Names like John Ross, Corey Davis, Mike Williams, Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette, guys, some guys that we thought would fall to us. We also saw, I believe, 2 quarterbacks go in the top 10 and 1 go at 12. So really, ideally, what we wanted to see happen, we wanted to see 3 quarterbacks go high. We wanted to see 3 quarterbacks go high. That was an ideal situation, but we would have liked to see maybe a few of those offensive weapons fall. And with everything that happened with Garyon Conley, it kind of made the choice for player at pick 14 slimmer than we may have liked. But all in all, I'm just going to preface it by saying I think we got a really good football player. So that's Derek Barnett, pick 14 from Tennessee, defensive end. Trey, what do you think about the pick? What's your thoughts on it?
I think it's a great pick. I mean, from as soon as the name was announced, I was excited just because this guy has some ridiculous talent. And
Absolutely.
It's just absolutely crazy that, honestly, I didn't expect him to be available at 14. And, obviously 3 quarterbacks and all that offensive talent made the better defensive talent drop. So I think that he was a better pickup than some of the guys that we skipped out on, like Jonathan Allen, which a lot of people say that Jonathan Allen should have been picked, but I disagree. I mean, This guy has no injury history, has done nothing but success at Tennessee.
Absolutely.
And I'm so excited for him to come in because, I mean, he's not going to get he's going to have to just win a one-on-one battle every game.
Yeah. And that's exactly what we want. I'm of the same mindset of you as far as Jonathan Allen goes. I thought Derek Barnett was a better scheme fit for the Eagles and what they're trying to do. That's not knocking Allen. I like Derek Barnett more. Actually, at the draft, we had been out there all day, and I mean, So like I said before, we wanted to see one of those sexy picks fall to us, and we were over, Birds Fly Talk crew who was down there. We overreacted to it, just because, if you asked what the stronghold of this team was, it is defensive end. But let's be honest here. Our defensive line, for what it is and what it was and what it has been for the past 3 or so years, let's be real here. They've underachieved. Like, you have Fletcher Cox, you have Brandon Graham, who stepped out, but Vinny Curry has really not shown much. You've got Marcus Smith, who's, it's not his fault that he was a first-round pick, so he gets that pressure, but he's playing as if he was, a third-round pick or such, and you can see that reflects in them not picking up his his fifth-year option, excuse me. Calling a spade, the Eagles' defensive line has underachieved, and it has been something that this team has, although it has underachieved, it still has been better than average, So I think with this talent we've got that starting. I'm just going to give you my projection starter, and if you disagree, Trey, you can jump right in. But I'm going to go on the right side. Obviously, Fletcher Cox. Brandon Graham, then D tackle Fletcher Cox, Timmy Jernigan. I got him over Bo Allen, and Bo Allen's not going to be back for a while anyway. And then I have Derek Barnett starting. I think he will outright win the job. If he doesn't, I think he will be playing a lot of snaps. But I personally have that much faith in him that he is going to step right in and do the job. Trey, how do you feel about that, him starting?
No, I totally agree with that. I believe that just the way that the defense was run last year at the defensive line, there was a lot of rotation, and not just at defensive end. I mean, defensive tackles were getting rotated in. I mean, we had an undrafted free agent in Destiny Vallejo.
Yeah.
He came in and played a lot. Bo Allen played a lot. I mean, we rotated the whole defensive line, and I think that kept everybody fresh. I think that starting wise, I think that's huge for Derek Barnett, just because there's not a lot of pressure on his shoulders because we have the rotation.
Yeah.
So I think that he can come in and just all he has to focus on really is, can I do what I'm asked to do and beat my guy one-on-one and get to the quarterback or the running back? And I think that that's a great part of his game is he eats up the run like no other. And especially with Brandon Graham probably getting double teamed, Fletcher Cox is going to get double teamed. I mean, that leaves him and Timmy Jernigan on the opposite side to basically just win their one-on-one battle.
Those battles, absolutely.
And I take our guys over any offensive guards and tackles in this league.
I agree. Look, I said, hey, top 5 or bust. I expect top 5 this year for this defensive line, at least top 5. Yeah. One cool thing, and we'll move on from Derek Barnett, but he wrote a piece in the Players Tribune, and I won't read it for you, but I'll summarize it for you. And pretty much what Derek Barnett said was, yes, he recognizes that he did break Reggie White's sack record at Tennessee, but it was not. Pretty much, he's saying it was not a goal of his. It wasn't something he woke up every day and motivated him. It was pure hard work. It was his teammates and them working collectively as a unit, and it allowed him to be successful. And it was a byproduct of hard work. And so, an attitude like that, not chasing the individual merits, but the team, putting the team first. That's someone you always want on your team. Obviously there were some playmakers left on the board like O.J. Howard. We talked about Allen there. Reuben Foster, who, oh my man, Philly was begging for him, but obviously he slipped for obvious concerns, the shoulder and the off the field issues. But all in all, they said they were going BPA best player available, and I agree. I mean, I felt like if that's who was the best player on their board, kudos to the Eagles because you went out there and got him. Not much to say about that. It sounds like me and Trey are on the same page here. But Trey, you got anything else to add on Barnett?
Nah, I'm ready to move on to second round pick, Sidney Jones.
Sidney Jones, that is right. So we saw the Eagles sitting there, and I was one of many people who was watching the stock of Dalvin Cook just slide to the Eagles. He got past quite a few teams that, I think about 3 teams that I was concerned that would pick him. Then there were the Saints. And then there was the Bengals, I believe, who traded away the pick, and and the Minnesota Vikings, who I did not see coming up, came up and got him. I expected maybe that from the Redskins, not from the Vikings, but be it as it may. That was obviously the popular pick in the second round. And then the Eagles, who were patient, calm and collected, came back and went right after it. And they got Sidney Jones, cornerback from Washington, who obviously tore his Achilles. And before we get Trey's opinion on this, I will just say the facts about his Achilles tear. It's not a full tear. It's a partial tear, so it's a rupture. It was a high tear rather than low, which is in terms of like Achilles tendons. That's you always want to see that. I actually in college sports injured my Achilles pretty bad, not a rupture, but a pretty bad injury. And you always want to see that higher rather than low. And obviously, the younger you are, the better. So the better off you are, and the better chance you have coming on. And the Eagles said they carried out a study which says that because of his age, he has a great chance of coming back at full capacity. Now, with that being said, Trey, how do you feel about the pick? Was it appropriate at the second pick? What do you think of the risk?
I thought it was worth it for them. Obviously, they were looking at Dalvin Cook as like the number one guy that they wanted at that spot. But I'm kind of excited for it. I thought he was going to drop maybe a little bit later, but I figured, you know what, take the risk. Pick up this player that's easily the first round talent and who they were targeting before he ruptured his Achilles. So, I mean, it's a great pickup just because he's a top 15 talent, if not the best cornerback in this year's draft class. So I think that the entirety of the situation is he's just a great player to pick up at the second round with the 43rd overall pick. And I don't really see any other cornerbacks that we could have taken. I mean, or anybody for that matter. With his injury, though, what's interesting is everybody's like, oh, well, he's not going to play 2017 at all. He's not going to play in the season at all. Well, that's not true, because if you look at not only just Achilles injuries, but his actual doctor's note that was released on April 21st, I believe, or around that way, like give or so a week, either direction. But the injury is 4 to 6 months before he's fully back.
Right.
And obviously him being 20, being very young in this year's draft, he's on this faster end of that 4 to 6 months. Absolutely. So that means he's probably going to be leaning towards the 4 months, where that puts him ready to go by week one. But obviously, if it is towards the 6 months, you don't want to rush a player into it if he's not fully healed. That'd be mid-October. So, I mean, that's not really that bad. I mean, he's still going to get to play at least half the season.
Absolutely. And I mean, let's talk about, just highlighting a previous Achilles tear that the Eagles saw, like back in the Chip Kelly era. You saw DeMeco Ryans, who was at the latter stages of his career. He tore his Achilles in that Houston Texans game. I think that was 2014, I believe, or 2014 or 15 when that happened. I want to say 14 that happened. And you saw him come back. Well, I mean, he was out of the NFL after that because of his age. So, these are very tricky injuries, but I'm encouraged because of his age. The doctors note, the Eagles study, and I believe it. And I think it's a very good calculated risk if it pans out, which signs point to that's, there's been no setbacks as of now. You just got 2 top 15 talents in the first 2 rounds, and that's, risk like that. That is how, or finding a player that falls and taking those calculated risks. That is how a team succeeds. That's how a team, you saw the Bengals. I mean, they make the playoffs because they take some risk on players that necessarily might have had struggle character or things like that. So this was the kind of risk the Eagles were comfortable with. And for them taking that risk, obviously, if it doesn't work out, they have to be accountable. But hey, this is this is the kind of moves that build championships, because now you have someone who's worthy of that one spot, and hopefully maybe someone who can follow someone. I mean, I'm dying for that in Philadelphia. I really am. But I love the pick. And one thing about Sidney Jones, too, is he does not have injury history, so to speak. He is not someone who we would call injury prone. He got injured, all right? He got hurt. He's not injury prone. And I'm not willing to say he's not, no slights to Joel Embiid, but Joel Embiid is injury prone. That's, this isn't that kind of trust the process. And I was just looking up while Trey was speaking, and before the injury, Walter Football had Sidney Jones rated as he switched from number 1 to 2 cornerback in the draft under Marshawn Lattimore. And me personally, I had him them 1A, 1B. And I personally like him more than Lattimore just because of his size, although Marshawn Lattimore does have a lot of that speed. But I thought that, Sidney Jones, for what he is, his skill set, how sharp his hips are, I liked it a lot. I like him more than Lattimore personally. Now, obviously, Lattimore will play more and he'll have experience quicker. But look, it's a great pick for the Eagles here, and it sounds like Trey agrees there. So there's no difference there. Great pick. And look, we want to know what you guys have to say about it. So if me and Trey here are crazy, which a lot of you might say, let us know. Jump in these comments here. Jump on our Instagram. We're at Birds Fly Talk. Obviously, you see it all around us in the studio. It's on the video too. And jump in the comments on at Eagles_Republic. Hey, talk to us, Sports R Philly. Let us know, because this is what we're talking about. This is what we're hinging our brand on. We're telling you it's a good pick, and that's how we feel. We feel like that's the direction it's going. And so, hey, but let's move on to the third round pick, Rasul Douglas, cornerback out of West Virginia. And look, Rasul has a very interesting story. Coming out of college, coming out of high school, he wasn't even considering college. His basketball season had finished. He was not really considering it. It was a high school coach who pushed him and said, hey, all right, you didn't go to D1. How about you go to JUCO? So he goes to JUCO. He struggles. Not struggles as in on the field. He struggled to make a living for himself, as in he in his interview, he said it really set in that he had hit rock bottom. He was walking to McDonald's in the snow, buying 5 things off the dollar menu and making them last a couple days. So being poor pretty much. And I mean, personally, when I hear things like that and see all the things he's overcome to go get a full ride from West Virginia to now being drafted, the guy's a dog, first of all, and so much heart, so much grit. And that's someone you want on your defense. That's someone you want in your building who can overcome adversity. And hey, shout out to East Orange, New Jersey, right across the bridge there. And so, Trey, what do you think about Rasul Douglas, his grit, and what does he bring to this team?
He brings size, man. This guy is huge. He's 6'2", 210. I mean, he ran a 5'4" or a 4.59 at the combine. And I mean, Jim Schwartz, a lot of people say that this kid doesn't really fit with our man-to-man coverage, our press, our aggressive defense. But I mean, I disagree. Just because what he played in college doesn't mean he's all of a sudden just can't play man-to-man.
Right.
I mean, the reason that Jim Schwartz likes him is because of his size and because of his length. And that's really, you can't, obviously, that's all just physical traits that you just come in, and that's what he came in with. So I think that him coming into this defense, he's just going to provide that long cornerback that can guard the number 2s right off the bat and just create havoc and make some plays. Because, I mean, this guy had 8 interceptions in one season at West Virginia.
Led the nation.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't understand. I think this guy is great. I mean, I think Jim Schwartz is a good enough coach to switch this kid from a so-called zone defense to a man-to-man press.
Yeah.
And this kid already has the aggressiveness.
Absolutely.
So I think that that's huge for the team.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw that in Rasul at the Senior Bowl. We saw him go up toe-to-toe with Zay Jones, who, in my opinion, I think is going to be a lot better value than where he was picked at in the second round. I think he's going to prove to be a first-round value when it's all said and done. And we saw him scrap. I mean, he is someone who competes. He's someone who has heart, and I think that's a trait that they saw in Jalen Mills, and I think it's a similar trait that they saw in Rasal. And he spoke about how that he has that burning fire in his eyes to to achieve and to make things happen. And he's a big body, and we've got big body wide receivers in this division. So hey, I'm all for it. I love the pick, and look, that's day one and day two for the Eagles draft here. I mean, look. The Eagles got after it. They made things happen. They took risk. People were saying, "Oh, you wanted two corners." Well, guess what? You got two corners. One of them's not going to play right away. But people talked about Lito and Sheldon. Well, guess what? That's what the Eagles went after, and they got you two young corners to go in a secondary that's just been thirsty for corners. And so, hey, if these guys are half of the bill that they said they're supposed to be, the Eagles are going to be looking right. That secondary, that defense is going to be scary. It's going to be scary. So, look, this was Birds Fly Talk, day one.
Hold up. Before you close, I just got an update.
Whoa.
Sidney Jones is already watching film from Browns versus the Eagles week 1. He's already in the film room. And I think that's huge for him as a player, because maybe he might not be able to play right away, but he is going to know this defense inside and out. So that is huge for Sidney Jones and the Eagles, and I love that already.
Every time we get this guy Trey on the line, something special happens. I just want to make that note clear, okay? And that's why we got the guy here. I mean, first take, that's you heard it first. Sidney Jones already in the film room. He's getting every advantage he possibly can to be better than he was yesterday and improve. So, look, that's huge. The mental side of it, obviously, we didn't touch on. But, look, that shows that this guy is ready to grind. He's already in the film room. We saw one of our rookies like that last year, Carson Wentz. And so, hey, we're going to wrap it up now. That was Trey from @EaglesR_Trey. Trey, thanks for being on the line with us here. We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you in video 2, which is coming up next, so stay tuned. Birds Fly Talk here. This was the first 3 picks of the draft. Recap here. I'm Kevin Taylor. That was Trey from Eagles_Republic. Shout out to SportsR Philly, the partnership there, the mothership. And we are happy to be going over this. We're excited. We're bleeding green over here in Philly. And look, hey, it's what we do. Birds Fly Talk, man. We out. Peace.
I am the one, the way your son don't need a gun to get respect up on the street. Under the sun, the bastard son will pop the clock to feed himself and family. By any means, your enemy